Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Patrons video today that I make for Dinnerhe as part of their custom monthly music review. And if we switch over to here, we got ourselves a track by Fujii Kaze titled Seishun Sick. I've been reviewing a fair bit of wee bit of Fujii Kaze recently. We did his one of his albums, and we also reviewed other tracks such as Shinu Noga Iwa. I think the live performance of that. We're going to be listening to more of them today. This track, Seishun Sick. It should also be noted, I've been told and informed that the actual song finishes at 5:30, so we're going to listen up to that point. But yeah, if you want to check it out in your own time, feel free to go for it. So we're going to listen through this track from start till finish. Here we think. Let's go. What do we got? Instantly familiar vocal tone. Lovely use of those electric keys. You can hear the people chatting in the background as well. I think that's really dope. We have also got lyrics as well, by the way. There are also subtitles, so that's great. Oh, nice use of vocal chops as well. Some interesting reverb textures there. Acoustic drum kit, I think, as well, which is kind of nice. Great combination of different elements here, synthetic and acoustic, or analog. I mean, like, it's really calm performance all around. You can hear the drums just keeping their groove going strong with those eighth notes intertwining with occasional sixteenths. That bass line filling that low end nice and warm there. The keys as well continuing to instantiate what they had previously. Guitars here for great development. You know, consistency of the composition on the right side. Conversation centered between the lead keys and the guitars on that side, left and right. It's got like R&B and soul funk kind of vibes from like the 70s and stuff like that in here as well, these string elements. I'm really enjoying the textures here. When you talk about youth, past, it's nice to go back to a more nostalgic time. Oh, switch up with those rim shots. Subtle claps. Now that was fantastic. That transition to this major seventh chord. It's beautiful. What a lovely switch here. You know, I've been suffering from Seishun Sick. It sort of instantiates there might be a tonal change there as well as a story change, you know, a plot twist. Very comfortable in his head voice there as per usual. You can't go wrong with Fujii Kaze. He hasn't put out a weak track as far as I've heard, you know? And by the way, I know that there's been people wanting me to listen to more of Fujii Kaze stuff. Feel free to go check out the Patreon link in the description if you want me to go do custom monthly music reviews for you too. No pressure, but that's... otherwise, there's just the fan request live streams that we do like once or twice a month. But yeah, if you go through the Patreon, that's a pretty surefire way to get your songs reviewed as long as they're under 7 minutes, you know? I like how we have some chromatics there, some switches there tonally. We have some notes that shouldn't exist within that key signature, but he knows exactly how to break the rules to make it work, and I adore that because you don't always have to just stay within your traditional major or minor triads here. You can flatten a third or something like that, or do the parallel major or minor or something like that. It doesn't always have to be in the box. Jazz is huge for that, obviously, but still. Casual, gentle war vibe, like auto technique from him. That there and that run there at the end is just symbolic of his control. It's spectacular. I'm really happy with how Fujii Kaze does his thing. There's just no weakness there. I very rarely hear someone who is as talented as he is show that much restraint for the sake of a song. Or maybe the fact that I'm saying that there's probably a lot of other phenomenal singers out there, but they also don't flourish as much, you know? I mean, the lyrics are melancholic, you know, like talking about like how his youth is, he's questioning his youth, his body is decaying, etc., trying to sort of figure out what it's like to grow older and to like lose that sense of being young, you know? Yeah, why do you have to be attached to being young so badly, you know? Sometimes a lot of people want to go back to when they were young, you know? And that bass guitar there is now a lot more active and a lot more sort of present in the mix. The way that it's been recorded, mixed, and mastered, the track itself allows for that to occur. It's very pleasant to listen to. Everything is notched well in the frequency spectrum in the stereo field. Everything has a place in the home that makes sense. I'm getting chills. Like, I legitimately got chills then with how everything built up and flourished, and the guitars with his vocals going up into that higher range there. I got chills down my spine. It was like goose pimples, you know, goosebumps. It's fantastic. Legitimately, and the imagery there of the burning house being their youth. There's something they built getting torn down by life and time is so visceral, but it's something I think that most people can sort of relate to, you know? Great use of falsetto there. I like the distorted guitar tone, actually works really well within this. Because how many different layers do you think there are on this? Because it's string sections, a bit of brass occasionally, maybe, so definitely pianos and keys and organs, as well as guitars, bass and drums and sort of synth keys, etc. We'd probably have about, like, I'm trying to imagine the amount of work that would have gone into the mix and mastering section of this track. There would have been at least 20 to 30 tracks within this from all the various guitar, drum parts. You know, it's a very complicated song, but they've just managed to find so much space for everything. And I'm so thoroughly impressed with that. Nothing overstays its welcome. And that's it. And it's credits. Cast Fujii Kaze. It's incredible. I adore songs like this. We're gonna look through the lyrics in a minute just so I can like really sort of contextualize and make sure I understand this track in its totality, but I'm blown away by it. So we got lyrics here for Seishun Sick. Afflicted by the sickness of youth, we seek only those fleeting things. Oh, say a farewell to youth. Yeah, so the youth itself is looking for fleeting things, but realizing their youth itself is fleeting. That's kind of wild. Because there's no way you can preserve it. Everyone gets older, you know. Obviously, you don't want to tell kids that, but, you know, it could depress the hell out of them, but... Yeah, and often kids want to get older. That's the wildest thing. A lot of kids want to get older because they look at what we have and they want it, and we look at what they have that they want it, and no one's happy with what they've got. And that's the source of unhappiness right there, you know? Yeah, no, so I think that he's talking about cutting ties and struggling with that, struggling with just moving to the next phase of his life. Yeah, no, I think he's just really struggling to deal with the reality of the situation that he's in, you know? Youth is the color of the end. Say a farewell to youth. Damn, man. I see in the end everyone is connected. It's lonely, isn't it? It's painful, isn't it? Those feelings, there was no time to calm myself. Exactly. It just blindsides you. One day you realize, oh, I'm not young anymore. I've got responsibilities. You know, some people realize this when they're married and have kids. They realize, oh, where is my youth gone? And then you have people have midlife crises, but more importantly, you have people realize just the fragility of mortality itself. I think that, again, Fujii Kaze is quite young. I mean, he's younger than me. He's like in his early 20s or something like that, right? Especially when he wrote this. And for him to have such a mature perspective on it makes sense that he's successful. My fever-stricken body can't even see with the swirling storm of mud that we mentioned in the video. Yeah. Even though I've never found something that could steal my heart even once. Within the glimmer of youth, don't look at that eternal light. Just know that someday we'll become dust, the fleeting nature of youth. Yeah, okay. Because this is my conclusion of this SP Patrons video of Fujii Kaze Seishun Sick. Well, I've spoken about what this track is about. It's about, I was about to say, what do I think this track is about? We already talked about it. It's about someone who is really struggling with the fact that their youth is over, that it's past, and the decisions they've made there or what occurred during that time. They just aren't coping with the fact they're going to have to move forward into uncertainty. You know, like, it's muddy, it's difficult being an adult, you know, and a lot of people never really move into adulthood because they really just cannot handle the fact that they're not young anymore and that you just don't live forever. It's brutal, you know. So, I mean, I personally can relate to what Fujii Kaze is talking about here, and I'm sure a lot of other people will be able to relate to it as well. I really hope that people find solace in the fact that you're not alone, man. If you're feeling like, damn, I don't want to get older, it's okay to feel like that, you know. It's okay to have these complicated emotions. You know, you just got to do the best you can, right? But I'm really proud of Fujii Kaze, again, for tackling it so maturely, for telling the story in the way that he did. Very authentic and organic. The vocal technique on him was absolutely pristine. Lovely controller head and chest voice, wonderful vibrato and legato parts there. Need to be a bit more percussive and staccato-esque at times as well. Harmonized and found ways to traverse through the really harmonically diverse sort of chord progressions and bass lines and stuff, and lead instruments that were going alongside him on the sides. He found a way to find, you know, I'm just blown away with how he managed to navigate that, because it's incredibly difficult to be able to navigate like 6th, 7th, 9th, etc. There's just 4 or 5 notes in those chords, and if you're trying to work within a key signature or a scale or even a mode, you gotta be real careful, you know, because you'll stumble across a flat second and you'll have a bad time with that if that comes through. But then again, at the state that Fujii Kaze is, and especially with the specialization of these R&B and jazzy influences, I don't think that we'd hit a wrong note. You know, you have to be that good to even make it anywhere in the industry, especially starting with this kind of foundation, and it's great. It's really cool to listen to. But yeah, no, he sang his heart out. It was fantastic to hear him feeling and portraying himself authentically through this. There was absolutely no slacking off, no points where I was like, why are we here? Why are we doing this? It was no filler. He just nailed the performance there. Not a note out of place. The track itself of 5.5 minutes, I think was definitely deserved. Usually I hesitate from, recommending people make longer form tracks than like the 2 to 4 minute mark, because I think that a lot of people, especially if they're new listeners, are just used to having it between 2 and 4 minutes. But I don't think that the song would have benefited from being a shorter form track, especially with the amount of interesting instrumental parts there, the synergy and the sense of connection between them, how it was so eloquently and intricately woven together. It was just a phenomenally beautiful tapestry, and I don't think that this song would have suited being a short form. So I'm really great that we had these verses and potentially bridge and interlude and chorus sections and various instrumental breaks there, and moments at the end where like Fujii Kaze just sang notes over top of it as opposed to telling a story at the end to finish it off with the instrumental back and kind of like ending out and closing it. And I think that was great because he told the story that he needed to. And then he was just like, right, the rest of the instruments can do their things. And like, let's not even begin to sort of talk about how this layer was composed and stuff like that. You didn't have everything come out at once, obviously. You had like the teenagers like laughing like they're at some sort of like, or talking as like they're at some sort of social gathering alongside that electric keyboard and just Fujii by himself. And in the video, you see him running there. I think that's very, very powerful because it's running from the reality of the position he's in there with his youth and the fact that it won't last forever, you know. I think that then obviously coming in with like the guitar, bass, and you know, drum elements there eventually, as well as all the other sort of synth distorted guitar parts, and gradually building the arrangement as we went along was smart because it keeps it sounding fresh, especially in a track that's 5.5 minutes. Even if it is well played, you know, that does not mean that we should sleep on it. It's just you still need to be able to introduce new things to keep the listeners engaged. So that, because if you have the theme repeat too much, even if it's with the same instruments, but there's lots happening differently with like the different chord progressions of bass lines and stuff like that, people won't care. They'll tune out because it might even become too much. You know, kind of give people a little bit of the easy listening aesthetic whilst you're introducing so many complex harmonies and melodies. I like the diversity of the different rhythms on the percussion there, the different grooves there. We even had some sort of like reggaeton kind of like offbeat rim shot parts as well. It was fantastic. Changes in texture and tone, especially with those guitars coming in with those big sort of gritty chords there. But typically moving around with those bar chords, seventh extensions and stuff like that. The keys as well, whether they were sort of playing those bigger chords and messing around with parallel major and minor extensions, and then arpeggios coming later on, like in the last outro chorus, was like like they kind of flooded there, along with some lead guitars at the end. The bass line being more of a supportive element, but then exploring more, being a bit more sort of like poignant later on to kind of fill out the mellowness and bittersweet nature of the track. It was full of life and full of vigor, and it sounded like the entire band was playing alongside it. It illustrates the the level of music theory and composition that we have on display here. It is absolutely where it needs to be for this level of success to be reasonable. As I know that Fujii Kaze is doing really well for themselves at the moment, and I'm happy for them. They deserve the success. I think that in this day and age where a lot of the mainstream sort of pop music I hear is, you know, in comparison to this, a lot less musically complex. I would say almost to a detriment because it becomes predictable. It's, for me personally, I'm not saying it's bad because it's simple. It's just for me, I don't find it particularly musically interesting. I need my dopamine hits to hit me in different ways. I get bored really easily, you know. But this kind of stuff entertains me because there's constant change and shifts. Different changes in the engine levels as well. That wasn't just loud all the time or soft all the time. It built up over time. Even though it was magnificently mastered, it still had a sense of liveliness to it. Like the band was playing in the same room. And I'm really happy with it, man. You know, like this track here, you know, not only was there a single note not out of place, alongside those sort of string parts as well, with a little bit of extra kind of high-end sheen there. There were just so many channels in that mix session. I would love to have seen how they sorted the mixing and mastering for this. I think it would have been exceptional, really interesting. I just think that it was just damn near flawless. And again, they didn't stick with their major and minor triads. They had several different sections with their own musical motifs, working with extensions there, and occasionally allowing the instruments to individually create the extensions themselves, like sevenths or ninths or something like that. There's a lot of these kind of like chord progressions in like a lot of the Japanese music I hear. Bum, 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 bum. They love that kind of stuff, and it's a staple of it, and it works well here as well. But there's also other ideas that he played around with what I enjoyed. Ultimately, just really happy with this. The recording, mixing, mastering was damn near flawless. The vocal recording was sensational. Nice, warm and crisp, easy to understand and intonate. You know, nice presence, filtering and EQing on that. All the bass, guitar, drums, piano parts, EQing, synth parts, etc., strings, everything there was in its own position in the frequency spectrum, and the stereo field, you know, it had a home there. It was easy to hear and discern and tell what everything was going on. There were no arguments, no resonant frequencies. Nice level of compression to some of the elements like the bass and the drums without overdoing it. I think it sounded more lifelike because it had less sidechaining on those kicks there. It didn't sound like it was trying to crush it. I don't know how they did it. I don't. I mean, I've been doing this for a while. I don't know how they managed to get it that good. It's you know, there was, you know, dynamic range and changed energy levels, and the limiting compression was spotless. It was nice and loud without pumping. This is my SP Patrons review of Fujii Kaze's Seishun Sick. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go check out Fujii Kaze's various social medias and their YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next SP Patrons video. Spiderhands Out.